With rumors of the Switch Pro coming out right around the corner and the original Switch being able to, as the name suggests, switch between a home console and a portable gaming device, where exactly does the Switch Lite fit in? After first customizing my new Nintendo Switch Lite with these beautiful glacier blue shells, very reminiscent of the original Game Boy Advance, I couldn't help it. Well, it was finally time to find out what it's all about. Maybe you're considering getting your first Nintendo Switch and you don't know which one to get, or you already have the full-sized Switch but you don't know if a Lite would have any use for you. So I thought I might be able to share my thoughts now owning both, and hopefully this might help with your decision. By the way, hey, my name is Kat. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. I've been making videos about the Switch lately just because I've been enjoying playing with the little thing. But I do play on all the consoles as well, including the PC, and I make Let's Play videos, so if that sounds like something you might be interested in, please feel free to stick around and check out my other videos. I personally love handheld gaming, so when the Nintendo Switch was first announced, I actually wanted to try and wait for a Lite version to come out. Even though it wasn't announced at the time, I just felt that it was inevitable that they would. Nintendo has dominated the handheld gaming market since the very first Game Boy in 1989. Granted, I did end up caving and getting the OG Switch still back in 2018, but what were my reasons for wanting a Nintendo Switch Lite? Well, I wanted a successor to the 3DS and 2DS line, a true gaming handheld, except obviously it plays the latest Nintendo Switch games. I didn't necessarily need or want dock mode. If I wanted to play on the TV, I had the Xbox or PlayStation for that. I can probably count the number of times I've docked my full-sized Switch on one hand. So let's talk about the difference between the original Switch and the Switch Lite. The main one being, of course, is the size. The Lite, as Nintendo themselves demoed, is about the size of the original Switch without one of the Joy-Con. So you can see that hopefully a bit better here, and it's very similar, but the Lite actually ends up being a little bit smaller still. The screen sizes as well, with the OG Switch coming in at 6.2 inches and Lite is 5.5 inches. When you're holding it side by side, it might be a little bit noticeable, but when you're already playing on this thing, it's hardly noticeable at all. Speaking of Joy-Con, that's another big difference between the Lite and the original. There's no Joy-Cons to attach or detach on the Lite. It's in this nice unibody shell. It actually feels much more sturdy than the original Switch just because there's no moving parts. It feels great in the hands. It has that real handheld feel, much like the Game Boy Advance or even the PS Vita. Battery life is said to be between 3 to 7 hours depending on the game you're playing, which comes in at just a couple hours less than the full-sized version 2 Nintendo Switch. The version 1 Switch is a little bit less than the Switch Lite. But to be honest, the battery life for the V1 Switch has been more than enough for me. If you're playing for a long session on handheld mode, there are ways around that, such as a portable battery. Now, because of that unibody design, there are unfortunately some games that can't be played on the Lite. Even though you can technically connect Joy-Cons or other Bluetooth controllers to the Lite, games like Ring Fit Adventure, Just Dance, Nintendo Labo, Mario Party, just to name a few, they don't support handheld mode. Besides that, there are also games that utilize the HD rumble as a game mechanic. The Switch Lite has gyro controls, but no HD rumble. And though it's nice that most of those games have an alternate way to play the game without relying on the HD rumble, it can somewhat feel a bit better playing it on the original Switch for the full experience. The most seemingly controversial difference between the two is that the Switch Lite, even though it still has the word Switch in its name, it doesn't actually switch. How many times will I say Switch in this video? But there's no way at this time, or probably ever, to play the Switch Lite on the TV like its older sibling, unless you can do some modification to your Switch Lite, but Nintendo doesn't want us talking about that. That said, however, here are the reasons why I prefer the Lite over the original Switch, and reasons why you might choose one over the other as well. If you're coming from a long line of handheld gaming like myself, then HD rumble, gyro control, or TV support may not necessarily be things that you're looking for on a handheld device. Games that require the use of Joy-Cons, like I previously mentioned, might not be a system seller for you as well. Typically when I play on handhelds or just video games in general, I like to experience single player games. Gaming for me is like my wind down, cozy me time. So games like dancing games or fitness games are not ones that I would necessarily miss. Another thing I really like is the unibody and the smaller size factor. I have small hands, so having the overall more compact body is just much more comfortable for me. It's also noticeably lighter, so it's more convenient for me to carry around and throw in my smaller girl purses. I think the Lite is great for casual gamers, or maybe even mobile gamers that want to transition to a full-on handheld and maybe experience the Nintendo library or other ports that are now coming to the Nintendo Switch, games that you weren't able to play on the go just a few years ago. I also think the Switch Lite is great for younger players. My niece actually just got her own Switch Lite, which I also customized in a nice Sakura pink shell. You know what they say, to start them young, right? But it's perfect for her because there are no removable Joy-Cons, there's just less things to break. I find that it feels more sturdy overall. This thing can probably take a beating, almost like the door stopper 2DS. Remember those? That thing was built like a brick, and it's great for kids. Now, for the people that already own an original Switch, I do think that the Lite is a great complementary device. If you're someone who wants to keep the OG Switch at home docked as a permanent home console, the Lite is nice to have to carry around with you. With Nintendo's admittedly a little inconvenient save transfer system, you are still able to play your OG Switch at home and pick up where you left off on the go with your Lite, which is nice. If you have a household of more than one child, it might be a nice idea to have a Lite for each child as well, so there's no fighting on who gets to play the Switch tonight on the big TV. But if you're buying for yourself and you might not be as much of a handheld gamer like myself, maybe skip on the Lite. Since the OG Switch can be played in portable mode should you want to play on the go, it already has all the functions you need and even a little more. I'm all for saving money wherever you might be able to, so if it's not a need, then save your bucks and maybe use that money to buy more games or accessories. Do as I say, not as I do. And that brings us to the end. If there are things about these Switches that I might have missed, please leave them down below so it could help someone who might find it useful. Like the video if you like the video, and comment down below if you prefer the Switch Lite or the OG Switch. I love reading all your comments. I've also been pretty active on my new Instagram gaming account lately. I've gotten to chat with some of you guys there and I love it. So please feel free to follow me on there if you'd like. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you and see you next time.